Well, I thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time coming into the station. Of course, you're in Hamilton today for an announcement. I mean, why make this announcement in Hamilton?
First of all, it's an honor to be here in studio. I think it's my first time in studio, so excited to be here. And we wanted to just talk about affordability. We know that people in Hamilton are feeling the squeeze, and we wanted to make sure people in Hamilton felt like they were also receiving attention, that we are making sure that people know that we see them and hear them. And we know that one of the biggest concerns that people have here in Hamilton and across the country, cost of living, particularly the cost of groceries. And so we've got a plan to tackle that. We want to make sure kids can have a nutritious meal in school. That's going to take off some of the pressure off the shoulders of parents that have to pack a meal for those kids. So it'll save money for families, make sure parents don't have to worry about that. One additional concern on their plate, can take that off the plate, and kids will be able to eat a nutritious meal. On top of that, we want to go after the root cause. And one of the major causes that's driving up the cost of food is corporate greed. We know that these large corporate grocery stores are making more profits than they've ever made before, while people are having the hardest time buying groceries. So we want to tackle that.
Yeah, you mentioned excess profits is sort of what you're tackling here. What exactly do you define as an excess profit?
Yeah, so we looked at different ways of addressing excess profits, because it is, interesting. How do you determine what's an excess profit? Well, we look at previous years and the average of what a company has made, factor in some growth, and what is well and above that we would consider excess profits. There are other countries that have done so. They've used different ways, different mechanisms of addressing it. But ultimately, we want to get at the fact that if corporate grocery stores like the Loblaw, Sobeys, and Metro, which are making record profits while people can't buy groceries, there's something wrong with that picture. We want to go after that problem. And so our plan is, let's put in an excess profit tax on those companies. Let's go after that greed and reinvest the revenue that we get from that back into people by increasing the GST rebate is one tool, helping with food banks, giving them the funding they need. But let's go after the real cause that's driving up the cost of food, something that Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau, you'll never hear them talk about. And we know why Pierre Poilievre won't talk about it. His chief strategist is a lobbyist for one of the largest corporate grocery stores.
Are you worried at all that increasing the tax, they'll pass that on to consumers, that grocery prices may end up going up for the everyday person there?
Well, the way it would work is if they continue to increase their profits, then they're going to have to continue to pay even more of an excess profit tax. And we've seen in other countries, the United Kingdom, for example, put in place an excess profit tax on big oil and gas companies, and they didn't see that increased cost or increased price for consumers. It was able to start to deter them from trying to rip off, in that case, the citizens of UK. So we're also proposing not just for groceries, but also for big oil and gas companies. They need to be paying their fair share. We're seeing the pump prices go up. We're seeing grocery prices go up. And these companies, it's not a case where they're saying, oh, our costs have gone up, so we're just increasing our prices to match a higher cost. They're increasing the prices well beyond any increased costs because they're making huge profits.
Yeah. Do you have the support of the Liberal Party on this in terms of the supply and confidence agreement?
Well, this is something that we disagree with the Liberals on. They have really ignored this problem. We saw that food price inflation increased well above general inflation for 2 years, and they didn't really do anything about it. They've ignored the problem. And we know the Conservatives aren't interested in tackling this problem either. So it's really going to be something that we're pushing. We're going to use the public pressure that we can to really draw attention to this and say, people are hurting. People can't afford their groceries. Here is something we can do about it. That's a concrete solution. It's going to help out people, put money back in their pockets, help them afford their food.
Yeah. Well, looking elsewhere for affordability, of course, April 1st, we saw the carbon tax increase happen. What do you say to criticism that this is actually making life less affordable for Canadians?
Well, I would start off by acknowledging that people are worried about the increase in any sort of tax or any sort of cost because the cost of living is so high. That's why people are worried, and I understand that, and I recognize that. If we break it down, what are the real concerns? Like, what are people really worried about? What I hear from people is groceries and housing. Okay. Well, if we break down what is actually causing the higher costs in groceries, we see that it's actually corporate greed. It's not any other cause. If you look at the major driver that's significantly increasing prices, it's corporate greed. And I find it really suspicious that Pierre Poilievre is not going after that. He's attacking all sorts of other things, but he isn't actually pointing out the major reason why our food prices are so high. We're the only ones doing that. So to folks that are upset, I say, I get it. I get why you're upset. Let's actually fix the problem, though. And I would also point out that Pierre Poilievre has made this a big part of his push to help out people. Well, two of the biggest provinces in our country don't even have a federal carbon tax. No. BC doesn't have one, and Quebec doesn't even have a carbon tax, period. They actually have a cap and trade system. So why would Pierre Poilievre go out of his way to lie to those folks and say he's going to act something that doesn't exist? That proves to me, I think it should prove to Canadians, he's not actually interested in making life better. He's just interested in inflaming anger that's not actually towards a solution. I'm talking about a solution. Let's go after the real cause. Let's go after the corporate greed.
Yeah. Another thing with affordability, especially here in Hamilton, is housing, of course. And we had a couple big announcements recently, Liberals announcing $6 billion. But they did come with some conditions there, including the acceptance of fourplexes right across the board. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has made it very clear that he does not want these fourplexes to be available universally. I'm just looking for your thoughts on this new money and also the conditions that were placed around it. Do you think this is the right decision to get more affordable housing built?
Well, my concern with the Liberal approach is while they're focused on building homes, they haven't really emphasized the importance of building affordable homes. I've spoken to a lot of builders, and they tell me, well, we have to buy the land at market rates. We got to buy the materials at market rates. It costs whatever it costs, the market costs for building and the work that it goes into building a home. So we're going to sell the properties at whatever the market rate is. If you do a lot more, it's just going to be a lot more of whatever the market rate is. That's not something affordable for most people. Young people I speak to say, I can't afford the market rate for a home or for a condo. Seniors that are worried about losing their place are saying, I can't afford the market rents that are being posted. I look at those and say, I'm going to lose my home and I'm not going to have anywhere to go. So what we're really focused on is let's make the priority affordability. And the only way we do that is if the government actually makes it a priority to say we're going to invest in building homes that are truly affordable. And when I talk about affordability, people should have money left over after they pay their rent or their mortgage, where they can save up some money, they can buy the groceries that they need for the family, pay the bills. So we're looking at it should be less, 30% or less of your income should go towards housing. Then we're talking about true affordability.
Yeah. Well, what about the fourplexes, though? If this was your policy, would you make it include a universal acceptance of fourplexes? Well,
the idea of density is something I support, like the idea we should be able to build more homes in smaller in less land. I think that idea in general. But again, I would focus on where's the condition of those fourplexes or whatever is being built, where's the condition of them actually being affordable? We are also focused on looking at not-for-profit housing, looking at cooperative housing. We want homes that people can actually afford to rent or to buy. And if we build just a whole bunch of luxury condos that no one can afford except for rich investors, how is that fixing the problem? And so my concern with the Liberals and the Conservatives, frankly, both of them have shown they're more interested in either helping out their developer friends, selling off public land to rich folks who want to make more money, letting rich investors use the housing market as like a stock market. None of that is actually fixing the problem. I'm focused on how do you make sure everyday Canadians can actually afford a place to call home. That's what I'm focused on.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking ahead to the budget next week as well. What are you looking for there?
Action to save costs when it comes to groceries and housing. Those are the two biggest concerns Canadians have. I want to see real solutions that will make it easier for someone to buy a home or to find a home they can afford to rent, make it easier for people to afford their groceries. I want to see real action on those two things.
Can we expect any new announcements around the National Pharmacare program?
Well, so far we're really excited. We've got in addition to dental care, pharmacare, we've got the diabetes medication and devices covered, as well as contraceptives. We want to get as many provinces signed up as possible. So we're going to push the government to negotiate with provinces, get them on board so that people can get free medication.
Yeah, because I know there was talk of it expanding eventually. I don't know when we can maybe expect that.
Well, in terms of expansion, I've noticed something working with the Liberals. They're not interested in pharmacare. We had to push them and really force them to move forward on this. So I think the only way we move forward and expand it is we elect more New Democrats. If this is something that people care about, I can tell you the Conservatives would take it away from you. And the Liberals were really reluctant to even go this far. If we want to go further, more New Democrats will make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the eventual election, if it ends up being another Liberal minority government, would you continue the supply and confidence agreement?
Well, I don't want to presuppose the outcome of an election, and I want folks to know I'm running to become Prime Minister. I've seen the Liberals very up close and personal. I've seen the way they have the power to deal with things and choose not to. The lack of urgency when people are saying, I can't afford my groceries, and they're delaying, not really taking it serious, not putting in place any real solutions. So I've seen them ignore problems and have had to force them to act. I want to be in a position where we're making decisions in our country in the best interest of working people every day. So I want to be Prime Minister. That's my focus.
Yeah. What do you think of Justin Trudeau's leadership?
I would say he has come across very out of touch. And being out of touch means that he's ignored a lot of the problems people are going through and self-admittedly hasn't used the power at the federal level to respond to the problems that people are going through. I also know Pierre Poilievre. I see him very up close. And I can tell you he is someone who wants to take away the things that people need. He wants to take away dental care, even though he himself has had taxpayer-funded dental care for most of his adult life. He wants to take away pharmacare. He wants to take away our healthcare system. He's been very open about it. He wants to privatize the whole system. He would be bad for Canada. And I put to Canadians, they've got a choice. They don't have to go between the red and blue, Liberal and Conservative. They've got a real choice. And New Democrats have shown we can deliver, and we're here for you.
There was that one non-confidence vote, of course, that didn't go through. But is there any chance that the Liberals will call an early election, do you think?
I guess if history is any indication, the last time around in 2021, it was the Liberals that called that election, and it was in the midst of the pandemic, and a lot of folks were pretty upset about that. So really, it's going to fall to the government to call the election. We are going to continue to squeeze as much as we can out of them to make Ottawa work for Hamilton, to make Ottawa work for Canada, and whenever the election happens, we'll be ready to fight it.
Yeah, I mean, one last question. What do you have to say to Hamiltonians?
I know that times are tough, and I would say that New Democrats have shown you what you get with us. We fight for you and we deliver. We've been forcing this government to deliver for Canadians, for Hamiltonians. We've been following this tradition of Tommy Douglas and Stephen Lewis. New Democrats, when we have power, we find ways to make people's lives better. We did that with universal health care under Tommy. We did it with EI and pensions and old age security. And now we're doing it with dental care, pharmacare, childcare. We're making a difference in people's lives, and we're going to continue to do that. So you can count on us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming all the way into the station and chatting.
It was a pleasure. We have to do it again.
Definitely.